Chapter 56. The Forest and the City. The letter arrived unexpectedly, tucked inside black silk that smelled faintly of earth and smoke. Its seal was a dark wax, pressed with a sigil that pulsed faintly under my fingertips. I untied it carefully, aware that even small gestures felt monumental now. Inside lay a photograph, glossy and vivid, showing a massive red tree rising defiantly between skyscrapers. Its roots tore through pavement, cracking the streets like veins of forgotten memory. Limbs stretched and clawed at office windows, as if demanding attention from the people who had long ignored it. On the back, in uneven script that seemed to shift when you looked too long, a single line read: "Memory has awakened in the place that forgot it." The city itself didn't feel like it mattered. The name was irrelevant because the moment we stepped off the train, we could feel it. Something old and wild had begun to stir. People walked past the tree without noticing, heads bowed to their screens, footsteps mechanical, as if the eruption of crimson life had always been part of their environment. But Ethan and I knew better. This was not just a tree. This was a reckoning. The forest had claimed forgotten ground, and now it was calling, reaching, demanding recognition. "We're not here to stop it," I whispered, the words trembling in my chest, more reverent than fearful. The city smelled of asphalt, exhaust, and faint decay, but beneath it I could smell soil, moss, and rain, an entire forest buried beneath concrete. Ethan shook his head slowly, his dark eyes catching the reflection of crimson leaves in a broken storefront window. "No," he said, "we're here to help it speak." His voice was low, deliberate, carrying the weight of years we'd spent following threads of memory, piecing together fragments of the past. The roots of the red tree twisted beneath the streets like giant serpents, leading us down into an abandoned subway station now cloaked in red moss and glowing faintly with its own life. The air smelled damp and earthy, the fluorescent lights long dead, replaced by faint luminescence emanating from the roots themselves. Here, the city felt swallowed by the forest, as though it had always existed underground, waiting for someone to notice. And then we saw her. A girl in a red coat, standing motionless amid the glowing roots. Her hair caught the sparse light, flames in the shadowed station, and her eyes were impossibly old and tired for one so young. My chest tightened. I recognized her immediately, the one who had haunted my dreams ever since Willow Ridge. She was real. She was here. She was waiting. "I am the final echo," she said, her voice low and brittle, carrying both command and plea. "And I'm dying." Her words made the air around us quiver. The roots pulsed, as if responding, vibrating in time with her heartbeat. The red leaves from the tree above drifted down through the open shafts, spiraling like slow fire toward the subway floor. Ethan stepped forward, hand reaching toward her without touching. "You're not alone," he said. "We'll help you speak." Her eyes flicked toward us, a mixture of relief and fear, and then she nodded slightly, collapsing onto the roots like a leaf returning to soil. The forest hummed beneath our feet, alive and waiting, and I understood that this moment, here now, was not the end. It was the culmination of every thread we had followed, every memory we had nurtured. The city around us didn't see what was happening, but we did. The forest in the city was awake, and she, the final echo, was its voice. I inhaled slowly, the smell of moss and metal and rain filling my lungs. Ethan's hand found mine, grounding me. Together we stepped closer, ready to listen. Because some memories cannot be ignored, and some voices demand to be heard. Chapter 57. The Memory Keeper's Choice. Her name came to me softly, carried on the hum of the roots and the rustle of crimson leaves. Myra. She was small, almost fragile, yet somehow ancient, a vessel born too early, holding too much of the forest's sorrow and the world's forgetting. Her eyes shimmered with the weight of memories no child should bear. When she spoke, her voice trembled, like a branch straining under the weight of snow. "The tree in the city, it has bloomed without guidance," she said. Her hands hovered over the glowing roots as if afraid to touch them. "A spark lit by the death of another forest, and it's out of control. It pulls up old traumas, wakes ghosts, fractures the minds of those too fragile to remember." I could feel it then, the ache in my spine, the thrum of every forest I had ever touched, every memory I had coaxed back to life. They were calling me, whispering, demanding, pulling me toward completion, to bind what had been scattered, to restore what had been broken, to finish the circle. If we don't anchor it, Myra continued, voice breaking, it will drown everything in memory. Her eyes searched mine, a silent plea threading through the words. Ethan stepped closer, dark eyes sharp with fear. His hand reached for mine, grounding, steadying. If you do this again, his voice was raw, tight with the terror of knowing what it would cost. You could die. I shook my head, my fingers brushing his. Not die, I whispered. Change. No binding stones glimmered in my palm. No ancient altars waited for my hands to carve sigils into stone. There was nothing but this moment, this city, this tree that had clawed through asphalt and forgotten streets, and me. The roots pulsed beneath my feet, humming with life, anticipation, and longing. Myra's presence quivered beside me, fragile yet enduring, a single thread connecting the chaos of memory to the possibility of order. I stepped forward into the shadow of the red tree, its limbs stretching above like arms poised between heaven and earth. I inhaled the scent of moss, rain, and city concrete, letting it fill me, letting it anchor me. Then I whispered its name. The syllables trembled on my lips, carried into the roots, the leaves, the veins of the city. And the city listened. A shiver ran through the ground. The roots quivered, curling and straightening, weaving themselves into patterns I could only feel, not see. The air thickened with memory, the forgotten, the lost, the buried, rising in waves that brushed past our faces like invisible hands. Myra closed her eyes, exhaling a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. Ethan's hand tightened around mine, but he didn't speak. He didn't need to. The forest, the city, the red tree, all were responding. And I understood, with a clarity that scorched and healed at once. Some power cannot be held, cannot be stopped. It can only be guided. I let the tree pulse into me. I let it unravel and stitch me back together. My body trembled with the flow of every memory it had ever claimed, every soul it had touched. And for the first time, I was not afraid. The city trembled with me, the roots settling into harmony, the streets sighing, the skyscrapers holding their breath. And Myra's voice whispered against the pulse of it all, "It is safe now." Not quiet, not gone, safe, anchored, waiting. I opened my eyes, feeling the change settle in my bones. The forest had spoken. The memory had been kept. And I, finally, was ready to hear the next echo. Chapter 58, The Red Bloom. The storm arrived without warning. One second the streets were quiet, ordinary, and the next, the wind ripped through alleys, shrieking like a living thing. Glass shattered in sharp arcs, and red leaves fell in a torrent, spinning and twisting like fire and blood. They tumbled from rooftops, swirled around streetlights, and carpeted the asphalt in a burnished, impossible glow. Yet in the eye of it all there was stillness. A pause, a heartbeat stretched across the city. I stood at the heart of the red tree, Myra beside me, her small hand warm and trembling in mine. She looked up at me with wide, unwavering eyes and whispered, "You're not alone." I closed my eyes, letting her words settle in my chest, then opened everything else. I felt Willoridge first, the ancient, knowing rhythm of the forests I had loved, each leaf and root singing into me. Then Hollowshade, the broken altar, its magic raw and jagged, waiting to be remembered. My grandmother's letters fluttered like paper wings in my mind, carrying fragments of stories long silenced. Ethan's sketches burned with color and intention, each line a heartbeat. Leora's song rose, haunting and fragile, weaving threads of memory through the chaos. Even Elijah's grief, heavy and unrelenting, poured into me like a river breaking through a dam. All of it collided inside me, flowing through my veins, a storm within a storm, a wind that could no longer be contained. My body trembled, every nerve alight with connection. Outside, the city stilled. Cars stopped mid-turn. Pedestrians froze, faces tilted upward, mesmerized. Windows glinted with crimson reflection, the world caught between awe and fear. Then it ended. The wind stilled. The leaves hung suspended for a breathless moment, and the silence deepened, pregnant with possibility. The tree sighed. Its limbs stretched higher, roots knotting into the streets and subways like veins reclaiming their territory. And then, slowly, deliberately, it bloomed. Red petals unfurled like embers, a fire ignited without burning, a memory made manifest in color and light. Myra exhaled beside me, and her hand squeezed mine, trembling but steady. I opened my eyes, letting the bloom settle over the city, over the streets and alleys, over the hearts of everyone who had forgotten and everyone who would now remember. And in that moment, I understood. This was not the end. It was the beginning of a city awakened, of memories returned, of stories that could no longer be ignored. The red bloom waited, and so did we. Chapter 59. The Girl Who Returned. I woke to light filtering softly through a hospital window, the kind that made dust motes hover like tiny fireflies. My body felt heavy and impossibly light at the same time. The world smelled faintly of antiseptic and pine, a strange combination that made my chest tighten with memory. Ethan slept in the chair beside me, curled slightly, his fingers still entwined with mine. Even in rest, he radiated quiet strength, the kind that anchors storms. I traced his hand with my eyes, memorizing the familiar lines, the calluses earned through years I could only guess at. I touched my hair. It was longer now. My reflection in the window glass revealed a few more lines etched into my face, a map of time that had passed without my knowing. The passage was invisible, but I felt it in the tremor of my fingertips, the steady rise and fall of my chest, the lingering pulse of the forest still echoing inside me. Outside, the red tree stood as it always had, silent, dignified, unyielding. Its roots coiled gently into the earth, its limbs stretching skyward like memory itself reaching for the clouds. It was not threatening, not forgotten, just there, a monument, a testament, a memory made real. Myra was gone. Only her coat remained, draped over a bench at the base of the tree, a small, vivid mark of her passage. I knelt briefly, running my fingers over the fabric, and felt a warmth that was both farewell and blessing. The world was still turning, carrying its ordinary rhythm, but everything had shifted. People walked the streets with a quiet reverence. The red tree had become a living museum, a sanctuary built around memory itself. Visitors came from across continents to witness it, to touch it, to learn its story. And I, finally free of the storms, the letters, the relentless pull of forests, taught them. I told stories. I painted what I could not contain in words. I planted new forests, small echoes of the wild places that had shaped me. And through it all, Ethan was there, always there. I loved him more than ever, not just the man who had held my hand through storms, but the one who had seen me, all of me, and stayed. Outside, the red tree swayed slightly in the wind, leaves brushing against the sky like whispered secrets. And I smiled, because for the first time in all the years I knew this. Some stories never truly end. They bloom. And some hearts never stop remembering. Chapter 60. When the Leaves Turned Red. Years had passed, yet standing at the edge of Willow Ridge Forest, it felt as though no time had touched us at all. The red leaves brushed against my arms like old friends, soft and familiar, whispering secrets I had long since learned to understand. Beside me, Ethan's presence was steady, unwavering, his hair streaked with silver at the temples, eyes still bright with the same fierce warmth that had carried us through every storm. In my hands I held a single seed, small, fragile, but heavy with promise. One last gift from the red tree, the tree that had carried our memories, our grief, our love, and returned them transformed. "It's time," I whispered, almost afraid to break the sacred silence. Together we dug into the rich, dark soil. Each movement was deliberate, a ritual, a covenant. Our hands brushed, paused, and met again. No words were needed. The wind stirred, gentle and knowing, rustling the trees as if even Willow Ridge itself was holding its breath. We planted the seed, covering it carefully. And when we stepped back, the forest seemed to bow. The air vibrated with life, an invisible chorus of every leaf, every branch, every memory we had carried with us. I closed my eyes. I remembered everything, the letters, the forests, the storms, Myra, Hollowshade, the city, the laughter, the heartbreak, every tremor of fear and hope intertwined. Every moment I thought I wouldn't survive, every moment that had led us here. And then the leaves began to fall, not in sorrow, not in loss, but in celebration. They danced around us, vivid and fiery, the color of life and love and memory made tangible. I opened my eyes and looked at Ethan. His hand found mine, fingers entwining, warm and steady. We didn't speak. We didn't need to. The red leaves told the story for us, a story of endurance, of love, of triumph over shadow. This time, we had won. The forest pulsed around us, alive and breathing, carrying the memory of everything that had been and everything that would be. And for the first time in a long time, I felt completely, irrevocably at home. The red leaves fell, and we were ready. We have come to the end of When the Leaves Turned Red. If you enjoyed this story, like, share, subscribe, and leave a comment.